All right, today we're going to be talking about red dots on pistols. I have my friend Daniel here. We're going to both share our thoughts on why we have red dots on our guns and the pros and cons of using them. Keep watching, my friends. Alright, so like I said, I've been wanting to make this video for a little bit. We actually did do 2 takes of this video already, but it was with my smartphone, and that thing was just being super goofy with like the autofocus and stuff, so both of those takes were ruined, unfortunately. I've been dying to do another one, but I actually ordered a new camera for the business, which I'm super excited about, so that's what you're looking through right now. It's a huge upgrade, and so I was going to reshoot that video a couple weeks ago or whatever, but I ended up ordering this camera, so I just figured I might as well wait so we can pump out some kind of better quality content for you guys. So that being said, we both have our pistols here, and of course both have red dots. This is what we typically rock anyway. So first thing we're going to be talking about, of course, is safety. Safety is super important, so we're both going to kind of check each other's guns as well as our own. So empty chamber, no magazine. If you want to verify for me super quick. Empty chamber, no mag. So that is that one. Empty chamber, no mag. Awesome. So I just wanted to basically bring in a friend for this video because it kind of, it makes it more fun, and then we can kind of bounce back and forth and just talk about why we both went to red dots on our pistols and kind of keep things, I guess, a little bit more casual instead of my stupid face just talking to you guys the whole time, right? So I made the switch to a red dot pretty recently, maybe just a few months ago, and it's just been such a game changer for me, honestly. It's improved my shooting tremendously. I actually like shooting a pistol now as opposed to before, where I just couldn't get it down. It was just really hard for me. I was usually shooting subcompacts, and which of course is more challenging anyways, but I guess I just really had a lot of challenges with iron sights and being accurate with those, and it got to the point where I was shooting so poorly, to be honest with you, that it didn't really make me want to shoot my pistol, which I know is actually not a good thing. Theoretically, if we're having trouble in a certain area, we should be spending more time, right, making ourselves better, and of course I'm terrible about that, right? So but that being said, once I shot a friend's pistol, it was actually the same gun that I have here. This is the Canik TP9 Elite Combat. This is a freaking sweet setup here. So I shot my buddies. He had the same setup in the flat dark earth version with the red dot on it, everything you see here basically, and I shot his, and it was just it was like magic, honestly. My shooting just that day improved so much, it's not even funny. And I also really like the pistol platform, which is why I decided to end up going with one myself. So we're going to be kind of, again, talking about pros and cons, why we run them. So I guess I'll just kind of get into it. So Daniel, why do you have a red dot on your pistol, and what are your thoughts on it?
So I originally got mine. Of course, you see every gun on Instagram has a red dot on it. So I got mine basically just to try it out and to look cool. I custom ordered this pistol specifically because I knew I wanted a red dot. So I ordered this. This is a Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0 Performance Center. So basically I ordered it just because I've never shot a pistol with it, really wanted to try it out. I've had optics on all my rifles, so I wanted to try it out on pistol. So I slapped it on there, and wow, what a difference it made. It's really impressive how fast it makes you, how it compensates for your lack of ability and lack of training. Not only is it a fantastic training tool, but it also gives you a lot more confidence when you're carrying. This is my everyday carry, and it does give you that confidence because you know that you're faster, you're more accurate, and your rounds are going to hit where you want them to. And that's kind of why I went with it. It was a cool idea. I tried it out, and it worked really well for me.
Well, and that's kind of a little bit of a debate and hot topic right now, is not only just red dots on pistols, but red dots on pistols for carrying. And I'm kind of glad you brought that up because, again, it's a little bit controversial, and you kind of see the old school guys. There's kind of always that argument of, iron sights are reliable. You can always depend on them. That's, and it's a totally valid argument. And iron sights are great, and especially kind of the older generations that that was all they ever had, so they had to get good with them. Whereas now, maybe this is kind of a silly argument, maybe it's not, but I really think that the red dots, it's almost like a video game. And, you know, half the people are probably like, yeah, and half the people are probably like, ugh, that's a weird argument to leverage. But to be fair, it's so intuitive to just put the red dot on your target and bang, 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 right? So there's something to be said for that. And as far as, you know, red dots on pistols in a concealed carry light is that there's a higher learning curve with these than there is iron sights, because with iron sights it's pretty easy for the most part to, you know, make sure the line's straight across on the top and center all three dots, and to an extent you're going to be where you should be. But with these, the main issue with the learning curve that you'll hear people make the argument is it's hard to find the dot. And so if you're not used to having a good presentation where all of your fundamentals and mechanics are kind of all dialed, you know, your grip's consistent, all of that stuff, if you don't have that down yet, you're going to come up and you're going to be trying to find that dot for maybe 5 seconds, which in a concealed carry defensive situation, that could easily cost you your life. So when it comes to carrying with these, it's very highly recommended that you practice, train, and do a ton of dry firing and just basic presentation. So, you know, we work here in a gun shop, and sometimes throughout the day there will be literally nobody in here. So what I did at the beginning was I just came in here, I just made sure I was totally empty, no ammo, and I just pick a target on the wall. We have a bunch of like deer head mounts and stuff like that, and I just picked a target on the wall and just came up, made sure that I could see my red dot, and just did that over and over until I started to feel a lot more confident about finding that dot quickly. And there's a couple tips that I'll go into as well, maybe in a little bit here. I want to let Daniel have a turn to speak, but just practicing that and getting that consistency down is so necessary if you think that you're going to be carrying defensively or concealed carrying with the red dot on your pistol. So
yeah, I completely agree. One thing that really helped me about this specific gun was this has suppressor sights, which means the sights are a true co-witness through the red dot, which means when I present, I can see my irons through my dot. And that helped me a lot with training, but not every gun's going to offer that, especially if you're, you know, kind of throwing the gun together, throwing an optic on it. It's a lot of times you have to lose your rear sight. So that's where just training, coming out of your holster, presenting, it's going to be there every time. Now, my first month I had this, I hit it, I dry fire practice all the time, to where whenever I pull this gun out, I'm not looking for the dot, I'm looking for my irons, and there's my dot. And now I don't close both eyes, or I don't close one eye, I keep both eyes open, so that when I draw,
it's huge.
I got, and there's my dot every time. And so that's the biggest thing. You got to practice, and you got to know where that dot's going to be, how you're holding the gun, and that'll make all the difference in the world. Like you said, there is a big learning curve, and it took me, I want to say, about 2 or 3 weeks before I could consistently draw it find that dot
at least
every time. Like I said, every gun's not going to offer those suppressor sights. I definitely suggest them. That way, in a situation where your red dot fails, which with a good red dot, you're not going to be looking at that very often. But if I prefer suppressor sights. If you can run them, absolutely run them.
Yep. Yeah, having those redundant systems. And actually mine, this Canic, the dot that comes with this and the plate, actually you lose your rear sight, which is definitely not ideal. Will you actually grab me that O-light really quick? So for our little thumbnail picture, I had to take this off so that I could get my gun to balance there. Let's see if I can get this on quick enough before. Okay, there we go. That's awesome how easy that is. So this is what I run normally, how I have my gun set up. So this is the O-light Balder Mini, and this is a light and a laser. So the nice thing about this is I don't have kind of that rear, those suppressor height sights to rely on if my red dot goes out, but I technically have a laser that I can use if I'm really in a pinch. I could use that in that fashion, and it's very similar in the sense that, you know, when you're looking down at, like, if I have my red dot, you know, on the wall 10 yards away, which is not on the wall, but right, I'm looking at the wall, bringing my red dot up, and then I turn on my light with the laser, it creates this weird effect where you're looking at the same thing, even though the laser's technically being shot out and hitting the target, whereas the red dot is, I mean, it's a hologram, right, basically, but it looks the same from your perspective. So what I'm getting at is, theoretically, in that sort of situation where my red dot goes down, it's basically the same training. I just have to remember to activate this in that scenario. And that type of scenario would be a threat that is maybe 10, 15 yards away from me, and I have my sights lined up, whereas in a more common defensive scenario, if someone's attacking me and they're literally right on me, I'm not even going to be worrying about optics. I'm going to be point shooting when somebody's that close to me. And you also mentioned having eyes open, which is so huge. So I kind of wanted to touch on that. Not only having eyes open, but for me, I'm left eye dominant and I'm right-handed. So the problem that I was having before with iron sights was, if I want to put my iron sights, you know, and shoot a target that's 5-10 yards away, I bring it out and I line up those iron sights, but I literally cannot line them up while looking straight ahead because my left eye is dominant and everything's just blurry. I literally can't do it. So what I had to train myself to do to keep both of my eyes open with those iron sights was I had to learn to tuck my chin. So I tuck my chin into my right shoulder, and that allows that left eye to dominate that picture, and then everything becomes clear. But the problem with that, especially in a defensive scenario, is now, for the most part, all my peripherals over here are all gone. I'm wiggling my fingers and I can't see them. So that's kind of the issue with that. It's better than closing one eye, but it's still not great. So now that was another thing that I had to learn to practice and get used to, was correcting that habit, basically. So now that I have red dots on both of my handguns, both of my pistols, now whenever I'm, you know, engaging a target, I just look straight at it, I bring it out, and there it is. So that was a huge improvement, but again, that took me a little bit of time to correct, because I'd find myself doing this, but I didn't need to. So this is a huge improvement in that sense. And it was really nice to be able to kind of correct and update that habit. And now it's also so much more natural to just look straight out, right? Instead of this, you know, this is not natural. It's just weird. And if there's one thing I've learned from a lot of the great instructors that I follow and some people that I've trained with physically in person, is keeping things as natural and easy and smooth as you can. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever seen Ronin Tactics. His name's Two Lambs. Badass Green Beret. And what I really like about some of his stuff is it's so practical, and, you know, he kind of he trains law enforcement and all that stuff, and you kind of get a lot of these guys, and I do it too, right? It's kind of like this tactical, like, bent over, ass out stance, right? But his whole thing, I mean, when he's training these guys, is he'll basically kind of give them shit for it and say, you know, you guys, you're too tactical. You don't need that, you know. And his stance is with his pistols or his rifle or whatever, is he's just upright, knees are bent a little bit so he can move if he needs to, and it's just kind of almost like a relaxed boxing stance, and it's so much more intuitive, and it just makes so much more sense. So I really like that's such a huge advantage for me with these red dots. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think a big thing is just like everybody on YouTube has video about red dots and how to train with them. And if it's something that you're looking into, and maybe you have a gun that you can throw an optic on, or you're thinking about purchasing a gun, do a lot of research. Do a lot of research on kind of what everybody else is doing, what they're thinking. And another one is research what optic you're going to run. I know there's a lot, and it seems like every month there's a new one getting released. As far as me, I run a HoloSun 407C. I bought it, kind of one of their lower end ones. I bought it just because I didn't know if I was going to like it or not. And I've been absolutely blown away with it. It does have a solar panel, does have the battery tray, so you don't actually have to take the optic off. It's got like 7 different brightness settings. This is a 2 MOA dot. So I'm happy with mine, and I know that you've had some concerns about yours. And maybe you're different, what you're thinking on that.
So this is the Vortex Viper, and to be honest with you, at this point I'm pretty dissatisfied. One of the main reasons that I'm really frustrated with this, like I said, I've only had this thing for 3 months, and I just had to change the battery, which is number one that I don't like. And like he just said, I don't have that battery tray, so I had to take this whole sight off just to replace the battery, which is definitely not ideal. But the main thing that I really don't like about it is after like 24 hours, the sight it goes to sleep. It just cuts off, which is so not ideal because, again, I just lost my primary sight system, and at night or whatever it is, if I need to grab this thing and potentially engage a threat, I am down a sight system, and I have to try and find this little dark black button in the middle of the night and activate it and turn it back on. So that kind of sucks. So the Holosuns are awesome, and the cool thing is some of the features that Holosun has put in their optics, which as far as I'm aware they're the first ones that did, are now becoming the new standard. So they have what's called shake awake technology, which is phenomenal, and basically that the sight goes to sleep when it hasn't moved for like 10-15 minutes. But the second that you grab it, it turns back on. So you can have this, like I have my pistol on my nightstand right next to my bed because I live by myself, I don't have any kids, and I live in the middle of nowhere on 40 acres. So I don't have that safety issue. So I can have a loaded pistol on my nightstand, ready to go. So that sight will be asleep, but the second I grab that thing in some sort of emergency or whatever, it just cuts on, which is super cool. And of course it saves battery. Not like you said, the battery tray is really nice, but at this point, like I said, they're starting to, those are kind of the new standards, so that's a good thing. You know, it's not like Holosun is the only option at this point. You've got some other higher end ones like Trijicon RMRs, and those are phenomenal. They're bulletproof in the sense that you could freaking throw that thing on the asphalt, pick it up, and it theoretically will still be zeroed, not broken, all that stuff. But those are also $600-700, which is a huge commitment to spend as much on an optic or even more than you did on your pistol. So some people are going to be turned off by that for sure. But like he said, definitely research, definitely look into the features, because that really is a big thing. And if you get to where you're a few months in with your red dot on your pistol and you're already dissatisfied with it, I can pretty much guarantee you're going to be pretty bummed out about that. I'm definitely frustrated. I knew that I was going to change this eventually anyways, but being this quick in, you know, and I'm already pretty frustrated with it, it's definitely not ideal. But that's okay. Like I said, just having a red dot on my pistol has been such a massive improvement that I'm so glad that I went this route, and my shooting has improved so much. It's kind of unreal, and I'm still, of course, not anywhere close to where I want to be. And that's the other thing, is that continued training. And if you're carrying a red dot on your pistol, and especially you're concealed carrying, please keep continuing that training. Even if it is dry fire, I don't really care. Just do something, because if you don't and you slap it on and you forget about it and you're not training even once a month, then I really think you're going to be doing yourself a disservice if you get into some sort of altercation with somebody.
Absolutely.
You got anything else to add on that?
Not really. Just as far as like, understand what you're shooting, understand what's in your hand, get really comfortable with them, get really familiar with them, understand what your gun's going to do. Because that, you know, it's said you don't rise to the occasion, you fall back on your training. And if your training is you don't spend at least an hour, 30 minutes a day with your gun in your hand, just kind of getting familiar with it, you're not going to know what it's going to do. And you go into sheer mechanics. Your body just goes into survival mode, And that, I don't know about you, but that's what I want. I want my body to understand what's in its hand and what it can do when I'm not thinking about it.
Yeah, these are super powerful tools. I mean, they're kind of like vehicles. I mean, you could hurt a lot of people with a vehicle if you wanted, or you could do great things with the vehicle. And we literally use them all the time, so we don't think about it. But if you really consider it, I mean, that's basically training every day when you drive a car and you're in that dynamic environment of other cars pulling out in front of you or whatever it is. I mean, that quite literally is training. You're using that thing every day, and most of us hopefully are pretty good at it, right? So using these as often as possible, like you said, I mean, it really should be an extension of your body. It should be totally comfortable. And of course, you know, ammo is expensive right now, all that stuff, we totally get it, but they say some of the best shooters in the world literally spend 75% of their time dry firing, so it's just a matter of that mindset and that mentality. One other thing I actually did want to touch on super quick, because I was going to kind of mention it earlier, I didn't, but one of the other hugest advantages for me with red dots is the ability to become target focused and not sight focused. And for those of you maybe who are kind of newer to this or haven't really considered this, with iron sights, again, if you're maybe engaging a threat, it's a little bit different if you're just target shooting and having fun, right? But if you're engaging some sort of threat or your defensive scenario, the problem with iron sights is you are what's called sight focus. So you are literally looking at your pistol, lining those sights up, and then trying to overlay that on your threat. And the issue with that is in any sort of threatening scenario, we as humans, we're gonna be focusing on that target. That's just what you naturally do. You have to focus on that to see what that threat is doing. Is this guy hiding? Is he trying to kind of walk around my peripheral? You're gonna be focused on that threat, and that's the problem with it. Is it's kind of not very intuitive to. It makes you very narrow vision and myopic, right? And that's a big problem. The best thing about these red dots is now you can be target focused the entire time. So you can, both eyes open, focus your vision, or however you want to put it, on that threat. And your sight, your red dot, is basically going to be just overlaid on that threat, if that makes sense. So it's such a game changer. It's so much more intuitive. And the fact that, military and law enforcement and a lot are starting to kind of roll over to this, where this is starting to become kind of more standardized, I really think that means something. And usually what we see is it's kind of that trickle-down effect, where then it rolls into the civilian world. And I think that's what we're seeing now, is it's becoming more and more common and standardized even in the civilian world. And usually there's a reason for that, right? So, for those of you who are, we'll kind of wrap this up, but for those of you who are considering maybe doing a red dot on your pistol, maybe you're just kind of fighting with it or whatever, what I would say is, if you have a friend who has one, definitely go out and shoot it if they'll let you. Or even if you've got a range or a gun shop locally that will let you rent a gun that has a red dot on it, please just give it a try and see what you think. What's the worst that can happen? It's really fun. It's totally different, but it's really cool to kind of mix it up and try something different. And you might be surprised. You might find that you really like it. It can really improve your accuracy and, like you said, even speed once you get used to it. So it's, give it a shot. And there's so many good videos out there. We're in the age of information now too, right? So there's so many good videos, out there that you can find. That's what I always do, and I'm gonna try something or buy something new. I always just sit there and do hours of research. I just obsess over it. It's just my nature, I guess. So I did the same thing with these red dots. So check out other content. Educate yourself, inform yourself, and I really think that it could be a good thing for a lot of you. Of course, if you're, you got to think about your holster. You might have to get a new holster, or if you're about to get a new gun and you decide to get one with a red dot, that's something else you need to take into consideration. But it's really worth it, I think. He actually just started doing custom holsters, and I've got another friend that does too. So at this point, I know two people who do great work making custom holsters. So at this point, I only go custom, and it's cost me pretty much the exact same that it would buying one online or whatever anyways, and I know it's going to fit my red dot, my light, anything that I have on there, which is really cool. So that's just about all that I have to say. Is there anything else you want to touch on with that?
Well, just get out there and get trained.
Sweet. Well, thanks. Hope you guys found this video helpful. I'm super excited about this new camera and whole setup and everything. I'm really pumped about it. I hope that this is a nice improvement from what I had before, kind of just the goofy little smartphone setup, which they work decent, but I've really been wanting to increase production quality pretty bad here, and I've got plans for all sorts of awesome videos coming up this spring and summer. So I've got a whole list of them in my notebook that I want to get done. I'm going to hopefully start doing them once a week here. We'll see here. Of course, life always gets in the way sometimes, but that is my goal. So please keep me in mind. Please keep staying tuned, and we will see you in the next video.